Wu Xiaoqin, go to finance, get your final pay, and don't bother coming in tomorrow. The man speaking had thinning hair and a beer belly that strained against his shirt. He sat in a wide leather chair, looking down his nose at me. I stood across from him, my blood boiling. On what grounds? I asked, my voice tight with anger. Deep down, I knew exactly why. Last night, I'd accidentally walked in on him and his secretary getting a little too comfortable in the office. It wasn't even a big deal to me, but apparently, it was to him. On the grounds that I'm the boss, he sneered, looking far too pleased with himself. He was clearly afraid I'd start spreading rumors. I wanted to tell him I wasn't the type to gossip, but I realized it was pointless. Even if I stayed, a boss like him would just find new ways to make my life miserable. Fine, I said. You want me gone? According to the law, a unilateral dismissal means the company owes me 3 months' salary and severance. If I was leaving, I was going to squeeze every cent out of this place that I could. The man looked like he was about to explode with a string of curses, but he caught himself. He knew if this went to court and his wife, a woman everyone called the Tigress, found out, he'd be dead meat. You think I care about that chump change? He spat. Get your money and get out. A few minutes later, I walked out of the building with my final paycheck and a small box of my belongings. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the crowds of people rushing past. For the first time in 2 years, I had nowhere to go. Since graduation, I'd achieved nothing. Now, I didn't even have a job. In a city like Shenzhen, you spend money the moment you open your eyes. Without an income, I wouldn't even be able to afford a piece of ham in my instant noodles. Whatever, I muttered. I'll just find another job. Right then, a gust of wind blew a poster directly into my face. I peeled it off and looked at it. It was an advertisement for God's Domain, the game that had been taking over the world lately. For the past month, the marketing for this game had been everywhere. People said the game's core AI wasn't even a product of our current civilization, but something far more advanced. It was developed by the world's top 5 gaming giants and promised 100% realism. That meant everything you felt in the game would be identical to reality. A true era-defining game, I sighed. The problem was that you couldn't play it on a computer. You needed a specialized gaming helmet, and those things were expensive. One helmet cost 10,000 yuan. In my 2 years of working, my savings had never even hit 5 digits. Wait a second. I just got my severance. 3 months of pay plus my final month. Exactly 10,500 yuan. My heart started racing. God's Domain wasn't like traditional games. It was full of infinite possibilities. As a longtime gamer, I could see the potential for making real money. But while I had faith in the game, I didn't have much faith in myself. I'd be competing against professional legends and rich whales who could dump millions into their characters. It's a massive gamble, I whispered. If I bought the helmet, I'd be broke. I had maybe 200 yuan left in my bank account otherwise. If I didn't make money in the game fast, I wouldn't be able to pay rent by the end of the month. I'd be homeless. Screw it, I growled. I'm betting it all. Worst case scenario, I sleep under a bridge and find a factory job later. I love gaming, and I'm not letting this chance pass me by. I hailed a taxi, an expensive luxury for someone in my position, and headed to the nearest sales point. The game was set to launch at noon, and it was already almost 10 o'clock. I couldn't afford to fall behind. When I arrived, the line was massive. People had been lining up for a month to get these things, and even now, with the launch minutes away, the crowd was endless. I waited for over an hour before I finally got my hands on a helmet. 11:25 a.m. I caught another cab and urged the driver to hurry. I burst through my front door at 11:50 a.m. My stomach growled fiercely. I hadn't eaten breakfast, and I knew if I went into the game now, my body wouldn't hold up for long. I didn't have time to cook or go out, so I scrambled around my apartment until I found a pack of bread under my bed. It was unopened, so I didn't care how long it had been there. I tore it open, wolfed it down in 3 bites, and washed it down. I sat down and pulled the helmet over my head. 11:55 a.m. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my stomach. Wait, did that bread go bad? I didn't have time to worry about it. The world faded, and I was pulled into the game. A massive cinematic scene erupted before my eyes. It was a battlefield. Colossal demonic beasts covered the sky, raining down attacks on the tiny humans below. On the ground, thousands more monsters were tearing people to shreds. But the humans weren't helpless. I saw mages in elegant robes floating in midair, chanting spells that called down the elements. Archers fired volleys of arrows at the flying beasts. Shield-bearers stood like iron walls, blocking the onslaught. Warriors with massive axes carved paths through the monster hordes, and assassins flickered in and out of the shadows, delivering lethal strikes. In the back, priests bathed in white light healed the wounded. These were the 6 classes of God's domain: mage, archer, guardian, warrior, assassin, and priest. Despite their strength, the humans were eventually overwhelmed by the sheer number of monsters. The battlefield fell silent, save for the triumphant roars of the beasts standing over the fallen. I stood there, trembling. The realism was terrifying. It didn't feel like a game. It felt like a memory of something that had actually happened. The scene shifted abruptly. I found myself standing in a grand, empty hall. Brainwaves scanning in progress, a cold system voice announced. Scanning complete. Drawing blood sample. I felt a sharp prick on my scalp. What the hell? This helmet has needles in it? Blood sample collected. DNA binding in progress. Binding complete. Identity confirmed. The system listed my details. Name, Wu Xiaochen. ID number, 32. 8517. Age, 24. Nationality, China. Your bank account has been linked. Real money transactions are now enabled. I took a deep breath. This was it. There was no turning back now. I stared at the empty space in front of me, feeling like I'd just seen a ghost. A quick scan, and they had my entire history, my bank account, and my identity linked. Was this a game or a government interrogation? It was terrifyingly efficient. The cold system voice cut through my thoughts. 1 minute and 30 seconds until game launch. Please name your character. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. This was a next-gen game, a technological marvel. There were bound to be things I didn't understand. I took a deep breath, calmed my racing heart, and spoke clearly. Chen Feng. Naming successful, the system replied. In God's domain, you couldn't adjust your appearance. You entered the world looking exactly like you did in reality. If you wanted to hide your face, you had to buy a mask or a veil from a shop later. To help players adjust, the system set the initial pain sensitivity to only 5%. Every hour, it would automatically increase by another 5%. Every other sense, however, was 100% matched to the real world. Each player will receive a unique lifelong talent based on their individual characteristics. The voice continued. Please use your talent wisely and choose a class that complements it. Good luck. The game is about to begin. The countdown started. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. A flash of white light blinded me. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in the middle of a bustling novice village. Pillars of light were flickering everywhere as players spawned in by the hundreds. Within seconds, the area was so packed I could barely breathe. Holy crap, this is a game, someone yelled nearby. It feels exactly like real life. Suddenly, a woman screamed. Hey, who just pinched my butt? Sorry, a guy stammered. I just wanted to see if I was dreaming. This 100% realism is insane. Oh yeah, she snapped back. Then let me grab you and see how real it feels. No thanks. I believe you. The chaos of voices made my head spin. For a second, I forgot I was in a digital world. Then, a crisp notification chimed in my ear. Welcome to God's domain. You have been assigned to Novice Village number 8365. You have received a newbie gift pack. Your talent has been generated. Source of poison. Please check your character panel for details. Source of poison? I frowned. I always thought of myself as a pretty upright guy. What did I have to do with poison? What I didn't know was that while my consciousness was in the game, my physical body back in the real world was undergoing a strange change. My skin had turned pale as toxins invaded my bloodstream. When the helmet had sampled my blood earlier, it detected the poison. The device had actually sucked most of the toxins out of my body to process the data, saving my life in the process. I ignored the confusion and pulled up my stats. Name, Chen Feng. Level, 0. HP, 50. MP, 50. Physical attack, 10. Magic attack, 10. Physical defense, 5. Magic defense, 5. Speed, 5. Every basic attribute, strength, intelligence, constitution, spirit, and agility, was set to 5. It was perfectly balanced for every player, unless they had a talent that boosted stats. Then I looked at my skills. I had Insight, which let me see the stats of monsters up to 10 levels higher than me. And then, there it was. Talent, Source of Poison. Effect, basic attacks or melee skills apply poison to the target. Does not work with ranged attacks. Deals 1 point of true damage per second. Can stack once. Lasts 60 seconds. Targets cannot regenerate health while poisoned. At first glance, it looked weak. 1 point of damage? But then I read the special traits. Trait 1. For every target killed that is 5 levels higher than you, the poison damage increases by 1 point. Trait 2. For every boss killed that is not lower than your current tier, the maximum stack count increases by 1. My heart skipped a beat. If I played this right and stacked those traits, this talent would become God tier. I could see it already. The house, the car, the money. I stopped complaining about being poisonous real fast. This was incredible. I quickly opened my newbie gift pack. Inside was a wooden sword and some cloth clothes. The sword gave me +2 attack, and the clothes gave +1 defense. Better than nothing. I equipped them immediately, bringing my attack to 12 and defense to 6. I looked around. The village was overflowing. There were 10,000 novice villages in China alone, and if they were all this full, the player count was already in the hundreds of millions. I tried to find an NPC for a quest, but every single one was buried under a mountain of players. I gave up on that. Quests at this level wouldn't give much anyway. I decided to head straight for the fields to grind. Outside the village, the grasslands were covered in players and hopping white rabbits. But something was wrong. White lights were flashing everywhere. Players were dying. Are those rabbits actually killing people? I muttered. I walked up to one and used Insight. Little white rabbit. Level 1. HP, 100. Attack, 12. Defense, 7. Speed, 6. I looked at the rabbit, then at my own stats. My jaw dropped. No wonder people were dying. Without a party, a normal player couldn't even beat a level 1 rabbit. My attack was 12. Its defense was 7. I'd only deal 5 damage per hit. Its attack was 12. My defense was 6. It would hit me for 6 damage. But the rabbit had 100 HP, and I only had 50. It also had more speed than me, meaning I couldn't even run away if things went south. The developers are total jerks, a guy nearby screamed. I've been killed by a rabbit twice already. Twice, another guy groaned. I've died 3 times. I've played games for years, and I can't even take down a bunny. It's humiliating. Even though players were dying left and right, the sheer numbers were winning. Whenever a rabbit spawned, 5 people would jump on it instantly. Since there were no parties yet, the experience went to whoever landed the final blow. As for the loot, that went to whoever had the fastest hands. I watched the chaos for a while, but it was depressing. Occasionally, I'd see a single copper coin or a tuft of rabbit fur drop. I didn't see a single piece of equipment. The drop rate in this game was absolutely abysmal. Damn it, killing 1 rabbit only gives 1 experience point, someone nearby complained. I fought so hard just to snag 1. How long is it going to take to kill 100? My stomach twisted. Was the game really this hard? I looked at the players around me, swarming every spawn point like locusts. There was no way I could compete here. That rabbit I had scanned earlier was already being hacked to pieces by a dozen people at once. I decided to move on. I needed to find somewhere else, or I'd never level up. As I walked, I realized just how impossible the situation was. People were everywhere. Most were just a disorganized mess, dogpiling onto rabbits the second they flickered into existence. But I noticed a few groups that were different. They looked like professionals, well-trained and coordinated. They camped specific spawn points with clear roles. Some rotated who got the final blow, while others had the group weaken the mob so one person could harvest all the experience. They were funneling every resource into a single player to create a high-level leader. That was the power of a guild. I felt a surge of anxiety. I hadn't even touched a single rabbit yet. If I kept this up, I'd be left in the dust. But I didn't want to fight the crowds. Even if I got lucky, it wasn't efficient. Should I head to the level 2 zone? I wasn't sure, but I kept walking anyway. Anything was better than standing here staring at other people playing the game. Monsters below level 5 generally weren't aggressive unless you attacked them first, so I figured I'd be safe just exploring. A few players waiting for rabbit spawns noticed me heading toward the higher level area. "Look at that guy," a short youth said, pointing at me. "Is he actually going to the level 2 zone?" "Looks like it," a chubby guy replied with a smirk. "He probably can't get a kill here and wants to try his luck inside. He'll be back soon," feeling totally hopeless. I had the same idea earlier. One look at those level 2 stats, and I came running back. "Are they really that strong?" the short guy asked. "Yeah," the chubby one said, shivering slightly. "Not something a solo player can handle right now. Unless you have a massive group, it's a waste of time. Better to just stick to the rabbits." I ignored them and kept walking for a long time. Finally, the scenery changed. A herd of mountain goats was grazing peacefully in a field. There wasn't a single player in sight. I walked up to one and used insight. Level 2 mountain goat. HP, 300. Attack, 21. Defense, 8. Speed, 7. Skill, RAM. I felt a cold splash of reality. If the stats kept scaling like this, how was I supposed to trigger my talent? My talent required killing things 5 levels higher than me. I had thought I'd become a top-tier player in no time, but now I realized I was dreaming. I kept moving, reaching a crossroads. To the front was a bamboo forest, to the left was a thick woods, and to the right, I could see a sandy beach. I didn't even know this game had an ocean. I decided to head toward the water. Even if I couldn't find anything to kill, looking at the sea sounded better than grinding goats. The beach was beautiful. The ocean stretched out forever, and the air felt incredibly fresh, something you just can't find in the real world anymore. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, feeling completely immersed. "Holy crap, that's a huge crab," I yelled. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a crab the size of a wash basin emerge from the sand. It waved 2 massive claws and started scuttling toward me. I checked its stats and immediately bolted. Giant crab, level 4. HP, 800. Attack, 45. Defense, 15. Speed, 8. Skill, double pincer. I ran until my lungs burned, looking back at the crab with lingering fear. Are the developers insane? I cursed. A crab that can one-shot people? How is anyone supposed to play this? I sighed, thinking I really would have to go back and fight over rabbits. But then, I saw something else. A massive sea turtle was crawling slowly across the sand. Curious, I threw an insight at it. Sea turtle, level 5. HP, 1800. Attack, 50. Defense, 40. Speed, 3. Skill, thorn shield. Anyone else would have turned and run the other way. It was the ultimate tank, 40 defense and 1800 health. Even at higher levels, nobody would want to fight this thing. The effort-to-reward ratio was garbage. But my eyes lit up. A level 5 turtle was an impossible wall for a level 0 player. Nobody could break through 40 defense. But I didn't need to break its defense to deal damage. I looked at its speed, 3. I was much faster. Even if it hit me once, it only had 50 attack. With my 6 defense, it would deal 44 damage. I had 50 HP. I could survive one hit. Its skill, Thorn Shield, reflected damage back at the attacker. But since I wasn't doing any physical damage, just a forced 1 point, it didn't matter what it reflected. My real weapon was my poison. My poison dealt 60 damage per minute. If the turtle couldn't heal, I could rot it to death in exactly 30 minutes. 30 minutes of fighting over rabbits back at the village might not even get me 1 kill. More importantly, this turtle was exactly 5 levels higher than me. It would trigger my talent. "Let's do this," I whispered. I walked up to the turtle and swung my wooden sword against its thick shell. A red 1 popped up, the forced minimum damage. Immediately after, a white 1 appeared, representing the true damage from my poison. The turtle was slow, but its reactions were sharp. The moment I struck, its neck shot out like a spring, and it clamped its beak onto my arm. -44. My health bar turned a flashing, angry red. I was down to 6 HP. Panicking, I turned and sprinted away. This was where my speed advantage saved me. The turtle crawled after me at a snail's pace, unable to close the gap. It watched helplessly as I pulled away, while white numbers continued to tick above its head every single second. I watched my health bar flicker at the very edge of empty. It was dropping at a snail's pace, but it was enough to make my heart race. I scrambled away, putting a massive distance between me and that slow-moving turtle. Once I was safe, I turned back and looked at the creature struggling to catch up. "Come on, little guy," I taunted with a grin. "Catch me if you can." The poor turtle dragged its heavy shell across the sand, one agonizing step at a time, determined to reach me. I didn't mind the wait. In this game, God's Domain, players and monsters follow the same rules. If you don't attack or get hit for 10 seconds, you leave combat mode. My health started ticking back up by 1 point every second. Since I didn't have any potions, this was the only way to survive. It was a shameless, grindy tactic, but it worked. I played a long game of cat and mouse. I timed it perfectly. Right before my poison debuff expired, I'd rush in, land one quick hit, and bolt. 60 seconds of poison duration gave me more than enough time to heal back to full health before the next strike. 30 minutes passed like this. I stood there, breathless and excited, watching the turtle's health bar vanish. With one final tick of poison, the massive body slumped into the sand. A system notification chimed in my ear. I'd killed the turtle and gained 15 experience points. Since I was 5 levels below it, I got a 50% bonus, bringing the total to 22 points. But the next sound was the one I really wanted to hear. My talent had triggered. My poison damage increased by 1 point. Now, I was dealing 2 points of true damage every single second. "Yes," I shouted. 22 experience points was way faster than fighting over rabbits at the village gates. But more importantly, my talent had leveled up. That meant the next turtle would take half the time to kill. I hurried over to the corpse. 2 copper coins sat in the sand, but next to them was a flash of light. An item. Even with a level gap bonus, the drop rates in this game were notoriously stingy. Getting gear for my very first kill was a massive stroke of luck. I picked it up. It was a pair of canvas shoes. They were just white quality, the lowest tier, but they gave me 3 extra points of movement speed and 2 points of physical defense. There was no level requirement for white gear, so I slipped them on immediately. My speed hit 8, and my defense hit 8. I felt a little lighter on my feet as I set off to find my next victim. It took a while to find another turtle basking on the beach, but once I did, I repeated the process. I walked up, slashed its shell, and took a bite to the arm in exchange. Without high attack speed, trading hits was unavoidable. But this time, the white numbers ticking above its head were double what they were before. 15 minutes later, the second turtle collapsed. I grabbed my 2 copper coins and moved on. The third one took 10 minutes. The fourth took 7. By the time the 5th turtle died 6 minutes later, a golden light wrapped around me. I had leveled up. My health jumped to 70, my mana to 60, and I received 5 free attribute points. I didn't hesitate for a second. I dumped every single point into agility. My speed was my lifeblood. If I wanted to keep exploiting my poison talent, I had to be faster than everything I fought. My movement speed surged to 13. I checked my experience bar, 300 points to reach level 3. That was only about a dozen more turtles. I paused, thinking. I could stay here and play it safe, but level 5 turtles couldn't trigger my talent anymore. I needed something stronger. Part of me wished I could let a turtle kill me just so I could drop back to level 0 and farm the talent again, but that was a crazy thought. I decided to head back to the 3-way junction and try the forest to the left. The bamboo grove was too thick and perfect for ambushes, and at my level, a surprise attack was a death sentence. The forest was brighter, with trees spaced far apart. I crept through the grass, my eyes darting around, when suddenly, a black shape burst from behind a trunk. It was a wild boar with gleaming tusks and eyes locked onto me. It scraped its front hoof against the dirt and charged like a freight train. "Seriously?" I hissed, diving to the side at the last possible second. The boar missed me by an inch, slamming headfirst into a tree. Stars spun around its head as it sat there, stunned. My heart was pounding. If I hadn't put those points into agility, I'd be a pancake right now. I quickly used my insight skill. It was a level 6 wild boar with 2,000 HP and 70 attack power. Its savage charge dealt 150% damage and stunned for a second. I winced. One hit from that charge, and I'd be sent back to the village in a coffin. I looked at the dazed pig, then back toward the beach. Should I go back to the easy turtles, or was I brave enough to try and rot this beast from the inside out? I had 70 HP and 8 defense. It was going to be close. I could handle a regular attack, But that savage charge was a different story. One hit from that, and I was dead. I didn't have the confidence to dodge it every single time. The only reason I survived the first one was because the distance gave me time to react. If it caught me while I was mid-swing, it would be game over. But I looked at my status. My passive poison was ticking for 6 damage every second. If I could stay alive for 5 minutes, this pig was toast. The risk was worth it. I took a deep breath and charged. The boar's skill was on a 10-second cooldown. I closed the gap and slashed my sword across its thick hide. 1 damage. I couldn't even break its defense. But then, the purple numbers popped up. 6 damage from the poison. The boar squealed and lunged, its tusks gashing my side. I felt a surge of pain as 62 health points vanished instantly. I scrambled back, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then I realized I had a massive problem. My health regeneration couldn't keep up. It took 10 seconds to drop out of combat, leaving me 50 seconds to heal before the next cycle. That only gave me 50 health back. To survive another hit, I needed to be above 63 HP. If I waited for my health to top off, the poison would wear off for 13 seconds. In those 13 seconds, the boar would regenerate 60 HP. I was stuck in a loop. Killing a level 6 monster wasn't going to be easy, but I'd already started. I had to finish it. I began playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek. I used the large trees as cover, circling them to keep the boar at bay. After 10 seconds of chasing me, the boar stopped. Its front hoof scraped the dirt, the telltale sign of its charge. I lunged to the side. The boar thundered past, missing me by a hair. I let out a shaky breath. The skill had a clear, wind-up animation. As long as I wasn't standing directly in front of it and kept my speed up, I could dodge. As the boar finished its charge, it paused for a second to turn around. That was my window. I darted in, sliced its flank, and backed off before it could even face me. By the time it turned, I was already 2 paces away. This was it. If I timed it perfectly, I could keep the poison active without taking another hit. I kept the rhythm going for minutes, watching its health bar slowly wither away. Just as I was about to deliver the final blow, the bushes rustled. A second wild boar burst out, charging straight at me. "Are you kidding me?" I hissed, diving out of the way. I'd been circling the same area to avoid getting lost, but I'd accidentally pulled another aggro. Dealing with 1 was a challenge. Dealing with 2 was a death sentence. Part of me said to run, but the first boar was 1 hit away from dying. I couldn't walk away now. I licked my dry lips, my eyes darting between the 2 beasts. It was time to dance on the edge of a knife. I led them in circles, waiting for an opening. The first boar scraped the dirt and charged. I dodged. I went for the kill, but the second boar immediately triggered its own charge. I had to cancel my attack and leap away. They were coordinating. The poison on the first boar was seconds away from expiring. If I didn't hit it now, all that work was gone. I analyzed their movement. My agility was 13, theirs was 11. We were close in speed. If I traded hits normally, I'd die before I could retreat. But what if I used one to block the other? I waited until they were side by side. As they lunged, I stepped into the blind spot of the healthy boar, using the dying one as a shield. The healthy boar's tusks hit nothing but air, while the dying one managed to clip me. I took the hit, gritted my teeth, and buried my sword in its neck. Then I sprinted away before their second attacks could land. I made it. My heart was beating so hard I thought it might pop out of my chest. This game's mechanics were deep. If you had the skill, you could survive the impossible. A few seconds later, the first boar collapsed, its life drained by the toxin. A notification pinged in my ear. I'd gained 20 experience points, plus a 10-point bonus for killing a monster 5 levels higher than me. Best of all, my talent triggered. My poison damage increased by 1 point. Finally, I exhaled, wiping sweat from my forehead. I dodged the remaining boar and snatched up the loot, 2 copper coins and a jagged tusk. The tusk was just a crafting material, worth maybe 1 copper at a shop. Just this, I muttered, tossing it into my bag. Still, a coin was a coin. Money was incredibly hard to come by in this world. After all that life and death fighting, I only had 12 copper coins to my name. I looked at the surviving boar and gripped my sword. I was just getting started. I watched as other players struggled in the starting zones, hunting rabbits for hours without seeing a single copper coin drop. The drop rates in this world were brutal. I didn't have time for that. I quickly finished off the remaining boar and started scouting for more. I was careful now. I couldn't afford to be swarmed again, so I pulled the boars one by one to my cleared spot. As my poison talent grew stronger, my kill speed increased. By the time I took down my 8th boar, the game finally showed some mercy. A piece of equipment dropped, a wild boar leather armor. It was a basic white-grade item, but it gave me 40 extra health points and 2 points of physical defense. I swapped out my ragged cloth shirt immediately. My health jumped to 110, and my defense hit 9. I felt a bit safer, but the real monster was my talent. My poison damage had stacked up to 14 points per second. That meant 840 points of true damage every minute. With a boar having 2,000 health, I only needed to land 3 hits and wait 2 minutes for it to rot away. I dropped 2 more boars in record time. Suddenly, a familiar golden light washed over me. I'd finally leveled up. The system chimed in my ear. I gained 20 health, 10 mana, and 5 free attribute points. I dumped every single point into agility. I needed to be fast to survive. My stats were looking much better. Level 2, 130 health, and my movement speed had climbed to 18. My poison talent had also evolved. It now dealt 16 points of true damage per second. But there was a downside. I was level 2 now, and these level 6 boars were no longer 5 levels higher than me. To keep stacking my permanent poison damage, I needed to find stronger prey. It felt strange to complain about leveling up too fast, but in this world, my talent was everything. I decided to push deeper into the forest to find level 7 mobs. The wild boar forest was massive. I spent a long time navigating the thickets, using my superior speed to lose any boars that tried to aggro onto me. Eventually, the trees thinned out, revealing a vast, open plain. Packs of gray wolves roamed the tall grass. My heart sank. There were dozens of them. I crept closer, staying just outside their detection range, and used insight on the nearest one. The stats hit me like a physical blow. Wild wolf. Level 9. 4,000 health. 115 attack. 20 speed. It had a bite skill that dealt 150% damage and caused a bleed effect. Are you kidding me? I whispered. These weren't normal mobs. Their stats were basically mini-bosses. I looked at the wolves and then back at my sword. I wasn't ready for this. If I got caught by even one, I was dead. I turned around and retreated back into the forest. I wasn't ashamed. I was being smart. As I trekked back through the woods, a glint of gold caught my eye from behind some dense bushes. Curiosity got the better of me. I pushed through the thorns and froze. In a small clearing stood a boar that made the others look like piglets. It was massive, at least twice the size of a standard one, and a golden aura pulsed at its feet. A boss. I held my breath and used insight. Wild Boar King. Iron Grade Boss. Level 6. 50,000 health. 250 attack. 120 defense. 30 speed. Its skills were terrifying. A savage charge that stunned, a frenzy mode that boosted its speed and power, and a recovery skill that doubled its defense and healed it back to 30% health when it got low. For any other player, this thing was a nightmare. If you couldn't outdamage its healing, it was literally immortal. But I smirked. My poison had a special hidden effect. Targets under the influence of my toxin couldn't regenerate health. The Boar King's ultimate survival skill was useless against me. Beyond that, my talent had a second trait. Killing a boss of my rank would allow my poison to stack an additional layer. That would effectively double my damage output forever. You're mine, I muttered, marking the location on my map. I couldn't fight it yet. It was too fast, and one hit would likely vaporize my health bar. I needed more levels and more speed. I backed away slowly, leaving the king in its clearing. I had a target now, and I wasn't going to stop until I brought it down. I knew for a fact that no one would be coming this way anytime soon. I needed to find higher-level monsters to hunt. My priority was simple: level up, boost my talent, and watch my damage soar. I headed back to the fork in the road and took the middle path toward the bamboo forest. As soon as I stepped inside, the air turned damp and chilly. The light was dim, filtered through thick stalks. I moved cautiously, my eyes scanning the shadows. Suddenly, I froze. Dozens of green snakes were coiled around the bamboo stalks, flicking their tongues at me. My skin crawled. I quickly cast insight. Green snake. Level 3. 550 HP, 32 attack, 12 defense, 7 speed. Their skill was Snake Venom, a 50% chance to poison a target on hit, dealing 2 damage per second for 30 seconds. So this was where the level 3 mobs were hiding. I could see why players would rather grind crabs than come here. That poison was a nightmare. But then I remembered my own talent. Poison was my best friend. How could I call it disgusting? I pushed through the bamboo and emerged into a different kind of jungle. The trees here were thin but incredibly dense. The light remained gloomy. After walking for a bit, I spotted movement. Massive spiders were crawling along the branches and the ground. Swallowing my revulsion, I used insight again. Giant spider. Level 7. 2500 HP, 90 attack, 40 defense, 13 speed. Their skill, Web Spit, could trap a target in a 2-meter range for 3 seconds. While webbed, you couldn't move or attack. Forget it, I muttered, feeling frustrated. I can't fight these. This path was a total counter to my playstyle. If I got webbed, I was dead. I realized I couldn't force the talent upgrade here. It was time to go back to the pigs, grind some levels, and then take down the Boar King. I returned to the wild boar forest and began my slaughter. With my poison now ticking for 16 damage per second, a boar lasted about 2 minutes. It was efficient. Each boar gave 20 base experience, plus an 8-point bonus for being level 2, totaling 28 XP per kill. I only needed 18 more to hit level 3. While I was out there alone, the plains in front of the novice village were a chaotic mess. Thousands of players were fighting over rabbits. Even with thousands of spawns, there were just too many people. In the middle of the crowd, a group of about a dozen players had cordoned off a few spawn points. They were expertly weakening the rabbits and letting a proud-looking young man deliver the final blow. A golden light flashed under his feet. "Congrats on leveling up, young Master Huang," his lackeys cheered. "You've got to be the first player in this village to hit level 2. I haven't seen anyone else flash gold yet." Huang nodded, looking pleased. He dumped all his attribute points into strength. "My attack is at 22 now. These rabbits are a joke. Should we move to the level 2 zone?" "Don't, young master," one of them warned. "Our scouts went in. Those goats are brutal. We can't tank them yet. We need the whole team at level 1 with some stamina builds in front, or we'll get wiped." "Damn it," Huang grumbled. "This game is too hard. They won't even let us top up our accounts yet. It's frustrating." He paused. "Has anyone dropped any gear? Tell them to hand it over. I need a set so we can move out. I'm sick of these rabbits." "The drop rate is trash, sir," a man replied. "None of our people have seen a single piece of equipment. The auction house is empty too." "Keep an eye on it," Huang snapped. "If anything pops up, buy it instantly." Back in the woods, I was killing a boar every 2 minutes. Each one dropped at least 2 copper coins and a tusk. It was decent money. As I finished off my 13th boar, I walked over to the corpse to loot it. My eyes widened. Another drop. I picked it up. Butcher's knife. White grade. Physical attack, plus 12. No requirements. That's it. I sighed. A few extra points of attack didn't mean much to me since I didn't rely on physical damage anyway. The knife was ugly, too. Way worse than the novice wooden sword. I didn't even want to equip it. I decided to check the auction house. The system was convenient. You could browse and list items from anywhere without going back to town. You could trade for game currency or real cash, which went straight to your bank account. Because players couldn't buy gold directly from the game, the only way for whales to get ahead was to buy from other players. I opened the interface and saw nothing. It was completely empty. Am I the first one listing gear? I wondered. I had no reference for the price. Let's try $500. It's the only item listed. Someone should bite. I really needed the money, so I opted for a cash transaction. I saw 2 listing options, fixed price or bidding. Since I didn't know the market value, I chose bidding. 10% fee for fixed, 15% for bidding. I grumbled. Greedy developers. I listed it anonymously with a 10-minute timer and went back to hunting. Meanwhile, back at the rabbit plains, a young man came running toward Huang, breathless. "Young Master Huang, someone just listed a weapon. Plus 12 physical attack." Huang's eyes lit up. "Buy it. Now, it's a cash auction, sir," the boy said. 10-minute bidding window. "Money isn't an issue," Huang said, regaining his cool. If it can be bought with cash, it's mine. Get it done. Elsewhere, a group of 5 professional-looking players were clearing rabbits with surgical precision. One of them stopped. Manager, an item just hit the auction house. The leader narrowed his eyes. Interesting. Based on our data, rabbits don't drop gear. Did someone already kill a level 2 goat? The handsome man named Jun Lin shook his head, looking skeptical. It's impossible, he said firmly. With our strength, we still can't handle those goats. We need to reach level 1 first just to stand a chance. Whoever listed that must have had a massive stroke of luck. Maybe it actually dropped from a rabbit. Another young man in the group chimed in. Can we contact the seller? Maybe we can offer some cash just for information on where they're hunting. No, Jun Lin replied. They listed it anonymously. The young man sighed. Well, nothing we can do then. But we should try to win the auction if we have to. It's just a basic white-grade item, but 12 points of attack is a massive boost this early on. Jun Lin nodded, his expression serious. In another part of the forest, a middle-aged man approached a tall woman wearing a white veil. She had an elegant, cold aura that commanded respect. Miss, an item appeared on the auction house, he reported. Her eyes brightened as she opened the interface. After scanning the stats, she gave a small nod. A white item with 12 attack power? It seems gear scaling in this game is quite high. See if you can bid for it. Understood, the man replied. Meanwhile, every corner of Beginner Village 8365 was buzzing. A single piece of white-grade gear had caused a total sensation. Since the auction house only showed items listed within the same region, everyone knew the seller was right here among them. Holy crap, someone actually found gear, one player shouted. I've been grinding for an hour and haven't seen a single drop. I thought the drop rate was 0. 12 attack points? If I had that, my damage would double instantly. Wake up, man. Another player laughed bitterly. Look at the price. It's already over $10,000. Rich people really don't care about money, do they? Damn, you're right. I need to get back to those rabbits. If I drop one item, that's months of living expenses covered. Back with the veiled woman, the middle-aged man checked his screen. Miss, the price hit 12,000. Should we keep going? Bid 15,000, she said calmly. No higher. It's just a white item. It isn't worth more than that. Others will start finding gear soon enough. At the same time, Jun Lin was watching the timer count down. A lot of people are eyeing this. It's spiked to 15,000, which is way above its actual value. It makes sense, Jun Lin muttered. It's the first weapon on the market. In the early game, speed is everything. But the drop rate is just too low. Go up to 17,000. If it goes higher, let it go. Once our team hits level 1, we'll head to the goats and farm our own. On the other side of the village, young Master Huang was grinning. Keep bidding, he barked at his subordinate. I don't have much, but I have plenty of cash. These losers think they can outspend me. To him, value didn't matter. He just wanted the satisfaction of being stronger than everyone else. I had no idea I was causing a bidding war. I was too busy using my cowardly tactics to kite another wild boar. Man, I wish my poison damage was just a bit higher, I grumbled. If it did more, I could kill these in 2 hits instead of 3. It's all because of that stupid spider boss. If it hadn't messed me up, I'd be farming my talent stacks way faster. This was my 18th boar. One more, and I'd level up. I watched its health bar tick down as I ran circles around it. With my movement speed at 18, these beasts couldn't touch me. The boar finally let out a final grunt and collapsed. A golden light swirled around me. I had reached level 3. I gained 20 HP, 10 mana, and 5 attribute points. Without hesitation, I dumped all 5 into agility. My speed climbed to 23. My health was now 150, and I needed 1,000 experience to reach level 4. 38 more boars to go, I sighed. This is going to be a long day. Suddenly, a system notification flashed. Ding! Your auction item has been sold for $20,000. After a $3,000 fee, $17,000 has been deposited into your linked account. What? 20,000. I froze. I scrambled to open my transaction history. It was real. I checked my bank balance, $17,700. I swallowed hard and pinched my arm. It hurt. I wasn't dreaming. A goofy grin spread across my face. That one trash sword was worth 6 months of my old salary. Who would even believe this? Rich people are insane. I laughed. I looked at the wild boars ahead of me, and suddenly they looked beautiful. That one drop paid for my gaming helmet and left me with 7,000 in profit. I didn't have to worry about sleeping under a bridge anymore. Time to grind, I muttered. These boars are literally bags of cash. I spent the next hour slaughtering 38 more boars. I hit level 4, gained more HP and mana, and pumped my agility again. During the grind, another item finally dropped, a wild boar leather helmet. It was a white-grade item that gave 30 HP and 3 defense. It required level 5 to wear. In this world, armor like helmets and belts boosted health and defense, while weapons and jewelry handled attack and crits. Shoes handled speed. I looked at the helmet. I could sell it for a fortune right now, but I thought about the wild boar king. I needed to be geared up if I wanted to take him down. That's where the real loot would be. With my current stats, my HP was 200 and my defense was 12. My speed was 28. If I leveled up one more time, my speed would hit 33, faster than the Boar King. Maybe I should try the Wild Wolves, I mused. I could stack my poison talent there. I crunched the numbers and shook my head. The wolves had a skill that dealt 150% damage. That was 172 damage. Even with my defense, I'd take 160. Toss in their bleed effect, and I'd be dead in one hit. I need more armor first, I decided. I needed 84 more boars to reach level 5. If I could get 2 more pieces of defensive gear before then, the wolves might be doable. So, I got back to work. While I was kiting boars in the tall grass, the level 2 goat area was finally getting crowded. Several groups of players were now coordinated enough to take them on. Nan Feng, fall back and heal. Someone else take point. Junlin shouted, calmly directing his team as they slowly chipped away at a goat's health. The race to catch up was on. The group finally brought the goat down. Hao Ran, a bright-eyed young man, rushed forward and snatched up a glowing item. It was a helmet. Finally, a drop. Hao Ran shouted, his face lighting up. Junlin let out a long, weary breath. They had killed over 30 goats just to see one piece of gear. Even for a team of veteran pro gamers like them, this game was brutal. It was enough to make them question their own skills. Why are the stats so bad? Hao Ran muttered, his excitement vanishing. What does it give? Junlin asked. 10 HP and 1 defense, Hao Ran said, sounding defeated. Junlin frowned. Maybe helmets just have lower stats. You're our front line, Hao Ran. Put it on. We keep moving. As long as things are dropping, we'll eventually get what we need. While they struggled, other players had it even worse. Most teams didn't have their coordination. Every few minutes, a flash of white light signaled another player dying to a level 2 goat. I, on the other hand, was deep in the forest. Over the next hour, I ground through 32 wild boars. My effort paid off when a wild boar belt dropped. It was a white-grade item, but it gave me 30 HP and 3 defense with no level requirement. I snapped it on immediately. My health climbed to 230, and my defense hit 15. It was a solid start. I just needed one more piece of defensive gear before I could move on to the wolves. I checked my bag. I had 3 small red potions now. Each one restored 10 HP per second for 10 seconds. I knew I had to push my luck. If I didn't stack my poison talent now, it would only get harder. Once I hit level 5, I need to kill level 10 monsters to trigger the talent gain. That would be suicide. I spent another hour kiting and killing 28 more boars. Finally, another item dropped. I ran over to grab it, but my heart sank. It was another wild boar leather armor. I already had one. Well, at least I can sell it, I muttered. The thought of more money cheered me up. I listed the armor on the auction house, setting it to a 10-minute anonymous bidding war. In this world, keeping a low profile while getting rich was the only way to play. Back in the goat area, the auction listing sent shockwaves through the top teams. Junlin stared at the stats on his screen, his brow furrowed. What's wrong? Hao Ran asked. Look at the stats on your helmet again, Junlin said. 10 HP, 1 defense, Hao Ran repeated. Junlin looked at his other teammate, Xiao Bei. And the shoes we just found? 1 speed, 1 defense, Xiao Bei answered. The realization hit them all at once. Pro gamers understood math better than anyone. Our gear gives 2 total stat points, Junlin said, his voice grave. The gear on the auction gives 6. Even that cleaver from earlier gave the equivalent of 6 points in strength. These aren't go drops. Someone is farming level 6 monsters. You've got to be kidding, Howran gasped. We're getting wrecked by level 2s. How can anyone kill a level 6? They must be cheating. There are no cheats in this game, Junlin countered. Xiao Bei, go find the boars. Check their stats. I bet that's where this gear is coming from. Elsewhere, a woman hidden behind a white veil stared at the same auction listing. She turned to an older man standing behind her. Uncle Lu, find the wild boars. I need to know what we're dealing with. Whoever is selling this gear is far ahead of us. It didn't take long for Xiao Bei to return to his team. He looked like he'd seen a ghost as he shared the boar's stats. 2,000 HP, 70 attack, 30 defense, Xiao Bei whispered. No way. Howran yelled. Nobody can kill that right now. The stats are too high. It's impossible. Junlin went silent. If someone was actually soloing these things, they had a secret he couldn't even imagine. We need that armor, Junlin decided. 6 stat points is a massive boost. We bid on it. The bidding grew fierce. A wealthy player named Huang Xiao pushed the price to 20,000, laughing at the poor people who couldn't keep up. He waited for the timer to hit 0, confident he had won. In the final second, 2 bids flashed. One for 25,000, then another for 30,000. The auction closed. Junlin's team had snatched it at the last possible moment. Back in the forest, a notification pinged in my ear. Item sold. 30,000 credits. After the platform took its cut, 25,500 landed in my account. I checked my balance. 43,200. I couldn't believe it. I had made more money in a few hours than I usually saw in a year. It felt like a dream. I stood there, staring at the numbers, a stupid grin plastered on my face. Then, the world tilted. Bam! Something slammed into my side with the force of a truck. I went flying, my body crashing through the brush until I hit a thick tree trunk. Stars exploded in my vision. Stunned, 1 second, the system flashed. I took 90 damage in a single hit. I had been so distracted by the money that I forgot I was still in the middle of a monster den. The boar roared, kicking up dirt as it prepared to finish me off. I finally tasted this savage charge firsthand, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. While I was still stunned, the boar gored me again. It dealt 55 damage. Luckily, my health was up to 230 now. If I were still level 3, I would have been sent straight back to the village. In this game, dying didn't just mean losing experience. It meant dropping gear. With equipment being so expensive right now, losing even one piece would have made my heart bleed. I turned around, whacked the boar one last time, and sprinted away. That actually hurt. I cursed under my breath. Even with the pain sensitivity set to 5%, that hit felt like a sledgehammer to the ribs. I glared back at the beast chasing me. You're dead, I hissed. 2 minutes of poison and insults later, the boar finally collapsed. It was a relief. It dropped 2 copper coins, a tusk, and a piece of gear. Finally, some luck. I picked it up, wore leather pants. White grade, plus 40 HP, plus 2 defense. The level requirement was 5, but I put them on immediately. I opened my status window to check my progress. Name, Chin Foam. Level, 4. HP, 270. Defense, 17. My poison talent was now dealing 16 true damage per second. I looked at my gear. I had the chest, shoes, belt, and now the pants. I was almost wearing a full set of boar leather. It wasn't a set, with special bonuses, but for me, defense was everything. My damage came from my blood, not my weapon. I frowned at my stats. This still wasn't quite enough to take on wild wolves comfortably, but I couldn't wait. To get stronger, I had to push. I did the math. A wolf had 4,000 HP. With my current poison, I need to hit it 5 times to keep the toxin stacking until it died. That meant taking 5 hits. A normal attack would only do about 98 damage after my defense. I could recover that in 50 seconds. The real problem was the bite skill. It dealt 155 damage and triggered a bleed effect. If I started bleeding, I wouldn't regenerate health for 10 seconds after the effect ended. I'd be forced to use potions. I looked at the 6 small red potions in my bag. Let's do it, I decided. Even if I have to burn through these, every kill makes my talent stronger. I headed toward the wolf plains. Seeing packs of wolves roaming the grass made my stomach churn. Pulling just one was an art form. If I messed up the distance, I'd have a whole pack on my tail. I crept forward, inch by inch. Suddenly, 4 wolves snapped their heads toward me and charged. Crap! I bolted back toward the forest. I waited until they lost interest and tried again. It took 10 minutes and a dozen attempts, but I finally isolated one lone, stupid wolf. I gave it a dark grin and fired an arrow. -16. The wolf roared, clearly offended, and lunged with a bite. -155. A notification flashed. You are bleeding. -5 HP per second for 10 seconds. My heart sank. Are you kidding me? My luck was trash. I turned and ran in circles, keeping just out of reach while I fumbled for a red potion. I hated using them. The drop rate was so low that every bottle felt like liquid gold. I timed my next hit perfectly, refreshing the poison just before it expired. The wolf swiped at me, a normal attack this time. Thank God, but my luck didn't hold. On the third hit, it bit me again. Another bleed. The chance is only 50%. I screamed at the sky. How am I hitting the jackpot every time? I chugged another potion. This was getting expensive. Finally, after the 5th hit, the wolf collapsed. You have killed a wild wolf. 60 experience gained. Then, the sound I lived for. Talent triggered. Poison damage increased by 1. It was worth it. 2 potions were a high price, but that permanent power boost was priceless. I looted the body for copper and a wolf claw. I wondered if the village had a quest for these. Then I looked at my experience bar and sighed. 6 more wolves, and I'd level up. That meant I could only boost my talent 6 more times before the level gap narrowed and the bonus disappeared. Why is the experience so high? I muttered. I didn't want to level up yet. I went back to pulling. This time, I found a gap in the pack quickly. My poison was at 17 now, so I only needed 4 hits. Of course, the wolf bit me 3 times and gave me 2 more bleeds. I cursed its entire bloodline as I popped another potion. This was going to be a long day. The wolf hit the ground, and my talent ticked up again. 18 points of poison damage. I looked at my bag and frowned. I only had 2 potions left. I didn't dare keep fighting. If the next wolf pulled that triple bleed combo on me, I'd be dead before I could blink. The odds weren't high, but with my luck, I felt like the game's main AI had a personal vendetta against me. Fine, I muttered. Back to the village. I was done with boars, and I needed more supplies to keep farming wolves. I checked my savings, 200 copper coins. It felt like a fortune. I'd buy a mountain of potions and come back to claim this forest. On the trek back, I stopped to think. I stripped off my high-level gear and swapped back into the basic novice cloth armor and wooden sword. I didn't know how much loot other players had found, but I knew I was way ahead of the curve. Being a high-level powerhouse in a sea of newbies was a great way to get unwanted attention. Low profile was the way to go. As I passed the goat fields, the scene was chaotic. Hundreds of players were swarming the area in groups of 3 or 5. Every single one of them was wearing the same trashy starter gear. Once in a while, I'd spot someone with a single piece of actual equipment, but they were rare. The drop rate in this game was absolutely soul-crushing. I felt a wave of relief that I'd hidden my gear. Otherwise, I'd be surrounded by players asking for tips or handouts. I kept my head down and moved fast. Behind me, a woman with a white silk veil over her face paused, her eyes narrowing as she watched me go. His movement speed is wrong, she whispered to herself. Even with a full agility build, a level 2 player shouldn't be that fast. What is it, miss? An older man named Uncle Lou asked, stepping up beside her. He looked in the direction she was staring, but I was already gone. Nothing, she said, shaking her head. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. The village was quiet. Most people were out grinding, which suited me fine. I headed straight for the village chief, an old man with white hair, standing near the entrance. Chief, hello, I said, putting on my best polite face. Is there anything I can help you with? He looked me up and down and sighed. Adventurer, your strength is too low. You can't help me yet. Go see Granny Lou on the north side. Maybe she has something for a novice like you. Rejected. My level was too low for the main quest. I trotted over to the north side of the village and found an old woman soaking up the sun in a chair. Granny Lou, do you need a hand with anything? Oh, hello dear, she chirped. The rabbits outside are becoming a real nuisance. They're eating all my carrots. Could you go kill some for me? A notification popped up. Collect 10 rabbit furs. Reward, 10 experience, 10 copper. I stared at the screen. 10 experience? I could get more than that by sneezing on a wolf. No thanks, Granny, I said, backing away from her disappointed gaze. I didn't have time to chase bunnies for pocket change. I wandered the village for a bit longer until I saw a farmer sitting on his doorstep, sighing deeply. That was a quest giver if I ever saw one. Sir, you look troubled, I said. Anything I can do? Adventurer. It's the wild boars, he groaned. They're trampling my crops. Please, you have to stop them. Asterisk new quest. Kill wild boars and bring back 50 tusks. Reward, 500 experience, 200 copper. Asterisk. I grinned. I already had over 100 tusks in my bag. I hit accept immediately, but my finger hovered over the complete button. I froze. If I turned this in now, the 500 experience would force me to level up. If I leveled up, I'd lose the chance to farm my poison talent on lower-level mobs. Old man, you almost got me, I whispered. I tucked the tusks back into my bag. The quest didn't have a time limit. I'd hold on to it until I couldn't farm my talent anymore, then come back for the payday. I headed to the pharmacy instead. My smile vanished the moment I saw the prices. Small red potion, 20 copper. Are you serious? I barked at the NPC. I thought they'd be 1 or 2 copper at most. My 200 coins, which I thought made me rich, could only buy 10 bottles. I gritted my teeth and bought them anyway, watching my balance drop to a measly 16 copper. My heart actually ached. I had picked up those coins one by one from the dirt. I hit the general store next and sold 81 of my extra boar tusks, keeping the 50 I needed for the quest. That gave me 81 more copper, which I immediately turned back into 4 more potions at the pharmacy. As I walked back toward the forest, I finally opened the world chat. I'd been so busy killing things I hadn't even looked at it. LFM goat farming. Must be level 1+ and full strength build. Looking for 2 big brothers to carry me through goats. Does anyone have a spare sword? I'm desperate. Damn it, I died again. These goats hit like trucks. I closed the window and shook my head. While everyone else was struggling to survive against farm animals, I was hunting wolves. My talent was a literal godsend. Without it, I'd be right there with them, begging for a group. Instead, I disappeared back into the trees, alone. I checked the chat again and saw people talking about a few groups of level 2 elites who had tried to hunt level 3 monsters. They had all come back defeated. Apparently, the green snakes in the bamboo forest were a nightmare. Their poison was too much to handle without a mountain of expensive potions, so even the top players were giving up on them. I saw a group led by a guy named Junlin retreating from the bamboo grove. Their faces were grim. Junlin told his team they were heading back to farm goats until they hit the next level. He wanted to skip the snakes entirely and go straight for the level 4 crabs once they had better gear. His teammate, Nan Fong, sighed, worried that avoiding the tough fights would only widen the gap between them and the mystery player at the top of the rankings. Another guy, Hao Ran, tried to stay positive. He argued that their talents were built for the late game, and while that guy might have an early advantage, they would eventually overtake him. I ignored them and headed back to the wolf territory. With 16 potions in my bag, I felt invincible. I pulled my first wolf and got to work. A notification popped up. Ding. Killed wild wolf. Gained 40 XP. Overlevel kill bonus, 20 XP. I kept moving, rhythmically taking them down one by one. Ding. Talent triggered. Poison damage increased by 1 point. Ding. Congratulations, you have leveled up. I had burned through 7 potions to kill 5 wolves, but the golden light of a level up felt amazing. My health jumped by 20, my mana by 10, and I got 5 free attribute points. I checked my stats. I was now level 5. My agility was up to 30, my movement speed hit 33, and my poison damage had climbed to 23. I looked down at the last wolf carcass. Along with 4 copper coins and some claws, something caught my eye. It was a piece of jewelry, a wolf tooth necklace. I picked it up, stunned. It was a white-grade item, but the stats were insane. Plus 10 physical attack and a 1% critical hit rate. A 1% crit rate might sound small, but in the early game, it was legendary. It was the difference between 0 chance and a lucky one-shot. However, I realized it was useless to me. My poison damage couldn't crit, and raw attack power didn't help my build. I grinned. If I couldn't use it, I'd turn it into cold, hard cash. I listed it on the auction house anonymously. 10-minute bidding war. Start. The world chat exploded instantly. Holy crap, look at the auction house, someone screamed. People couldn't believe a necklace had 10 attack points when most level 1 weapons only had 4. They were begging to know where it dropped. In another part of the forest, a player named Huang Xiao stared at the listing, his eyes bloodshot. He had lost out on an item before, and he wasn't going to let it happen again. As a full-strength build, that necklace was a dream. Meanwhile, Jun Lin's eyes lit up when he saw it. His talent doubled his critical hit damage, but without a crit rate item, his talent was literally broken. We have to get this, he told his team. Even a mysterious masked woman in another clearing was determined to win the bid. I watched the screen, mesmerized. In less than 5 minutes, the price soared past 20,000. By the 9-minute mark, it hit 30,000. The bidding slowed down. Most people couldn't justify spending more, but the big players were just waiting. Huang Xiao was smirking. He told his subordinate to wait until the final second and jumped the price straight to 50,000 to bury any snipers. He thought he was being clever. The timer hit the final second. A flurry of bids flashed across the screen. Auction ended. Final price, 60,000. Huang Xiao nearly lost his mind. He didn't lose because he was poor. He lost because someone else played the psychological game better. The masked woman sighed as she saw the final price. She had bid 50,000, thinking that was the absolute limit of the item's value. I just stared at the notification, my heart racing. Someone had actually paid 60,000 for a white-grade necklace. I was rich. I couldn't wrap my head around it. 60,000 for a piece of white-grade gear? Everything has a limit, right? No matter how good the stats were, it was still just basic equipment. In a day or two, it would be obsolete. Elsewhere, a young woman turned to the middle-aged man beside her. "Uncle Lou, do I just not understand this game?" she asked. "Miss, I never played games before this," Uncle Lou replied. "Do you know why your father insisted I enter this world with you?" "Because he wants to invest," she said. "He trusts your vision more than anyone else's. He wanted you to see if it was worth the money." Uncle Lou nodded gravely. "My understanding is this. This isn't just a game anymore. It's a second world for humanity, a spiritual world that will eventually carry the weight of our entire society. When we go back, I'm advising your father to move the majority of our real-world assets into this game." The woman's eyes narrowed. She went silent for a long time. "I know what to do now," she finally whispered. On another side of the forest, Jun Lin equipped the necklace. A faint smile played on his lips. 60,000, Jun Lin, his teammate, Hao Ran, asked. He looked like he was in physical pain. "For a white item? Is it really worth it?" "The drop rate for jewelry is abysmal," Jun Lin said firmly. "Finding a piece with a crit rate boost is even rarer. This item is top tier. It'll carry me through the entire novice village. This isn't a waste. It's an investment that will pay back 100-fold. This game is different from anything we've played before. It's our chance." Back in my corner of the woods, a notification flashed. "Ding. Your auction item has been sold for 60,000. After a 15% transaction fee, 51,000 has been deposited into your linked bank account." I stood there, completely stunned. I knew the necklace would be worth more than the other gear, but 60,000 was insane. When I saw the bidding hit 30,000, I thought that was the ceiling. That last second jump caught me totally off guard. Rich people are terrifying. Before I started this game, I had $700 in my bank account and was sweating over rent. In less than 6 hours, I was closing in on a 6-figure balance. It felt like a dream. "Keep going," I told myself, pumping my fist. "Forget renting. I'm buying a house." I decided to check out the level 10 mobs next. If I could handle them, I could keep grinding my poison talent. I hiked past the wolf plains. A pack of wild wolves noticed me and started snapping at my heels. They were aggressive mobs that wouldn't let go once they caught your scent. Luckily, my movement speed was 33. I left them in the dust without breaking a sweat. Eventually, I reached a valley. In the distance, I saw several majestic, silver-furred wolves prowling the entrance. My heart sank. Not more wolves. I was already burning through health potions just to fight the regular ones. These looked way meaner. I crept closer to the nearest silver wolf and used insight. Silver wolf. Level 10. HP. 6,000. Attack. 140. Defense. 60. Speed. 30. Skill. Rapid Howl. Increases attack and movement speed by 50% for 30 seconds. Nope, I muttered, turning on my heel. This thing counters me perfectly. I'm out. I didn't hesitate. I'd been playing for 6 hours straight on a single piece of bread. My stomach was starting to protest, and since I was flush with cash, I decided it was time to reward myself. I found a safe spot and logged out. When I pulled off the helmet and sat up in bed, my head felt fine, but my stomach suddenly did a somersault. I sprinted to the bathroom. I stayed in there for 30 minutes, feeling like I was losing my soul. That bread must have been expired. I groaned, leaning against the wall as I stumbled back to my shitty sofa. I pulled out my phone and splurged on a massive family bucket of fried chicken. While I waited for the delivery, I started browsing the game forums. Every single post was about God's domain. 2 of the top 3 trending posts were about me. The first was a theory thread about how one player in Novice Village 8365 kept posting high-stat gear. The second was about the $60,000 white item. The third was a report on the stats of the Boar King. I clicked the first one. Some self-proclaimed game expert was analyzing my drops. He guessed the first 2 items came from level 6 boars, and the necklace came from level 9 wolves. He ended the post by calling for the devs to ban me, claiming it was impossible for any current player to kill those mobs solo. The comments were a war zone. Hundreds of thousands of people were screaming cheater, while a tiny minority suggested it might just be skill. Then, I saw a pinned comment from the official devs. God's domain has no cheats. Period. Short. Brutal. It shut the haters up instantly. The devs have some backbone, I chuckled. Then I looked at the post about the Boar King. Someone had found it. I needed to move fast. Even if no one could kill it yet, I didn't like people sniffing around my prize. The food arrived, and I inhaled it. Once I was full, I hopped back into the game. I looked at my stats. I still couldn't take the Boar King. Fighting wolves was a waste of potions. Did I really have to go back to hunting boars? The thought made me want to gag. Maybe I'll check the level 8 mobs, I thought. They were located behind the spider forest. I just had to be careful not to get caught in those webs. If I got pinned down, even my stats wouldn't save me. The monster distribution in this game was a nightmare. Most players would hit level 3, feel confident, and wander deeper only to get trapped by level 7 spiders. The psychological trauma alone would be enough to make people quit. I moved through the trees, navigating the familiar paths of the spider forest with my high speed, eyes peeled for anything that moved. I made it through the spider forest without any major trouble, though the monster distribution was a total mess. It felt like a trap designed to frustrate as many players as possible. I pushed deeper into the woods until I finally spotted my target, a level 8 mob. It was a giant toad. Just looking at the slimy thing made my skin crawl. I focused my eyes and triggered insight. Named Toad. Level 8. It had 3,200 HP, 100 attack, and 48 defense. Its speed was low at only 15, but its skill was nasty. It was called tongue piercing. It ignored 50% of the target's defense and dealt 145% physical damage, while also slowing the target down by 35%. The cooldown was 10 seconds. I crunched the numbers. Even with the armor penetration, it would only hit me for about 137 damage. With my health pool, I wasn't scared. My poison damage was up to 23 per second now, meaning I could rot this thing from the inside out in no time. Even if it slowed me, I was still faster than it. Fine, I muttered. You're ugly, but I'm not here to date you. I just need your experience. A level 8 toad gave 30 base XP, plus a 9-point bonus for the level gap. That was 39 XP per kill. I needed 77 of them to level up. Besides a few copper coins, they dropped something called sticky saliva. It was clearly a quest item. Every monster in this starter village seemed to have one. While I started my toad killing spree, the top players in the village were just hitting level 3. They were struggling against crabs, barely scraping by even in groups of 5. Most of them had basic gear with tiny stat boosts, but the crab's defense was proving to be a nightmare for them. The players in Village 8365 were all staring at the auction house, waiting for the mysterious expert to drop more gear. Other players were trying to list basic plus 2 stat items for 20,000 or 30,000 coins, hoping to get lucky. Nobody was buying that trash. I had an old pair of canvas shoes from my earlier turtle hunt. I just replaced them with a fresh drop from the toads, so I decided to list the old ones for 10,000 coins. I figured since they were used, I shouldn't overcharge. I clicked confirm, and before I could even pull my hand away from the interface, they were gone. Sold in a literal second. What the hell? I stared at the notification. People in the world chat were losing their minds, wondering who had the fastest hands in the world to snag a +5 speed shoe that quickly. I realized then that I had seriously undervalued my gear. Even second-hand shoes were a treasure in this economy. I equipped my new toad boots, which gave me +5 speed and +3 defense. My total speed was now 35. I felt like a blur. For the next 2 hours, I didn't stop. I slaughtered exactly 77 toads until a golden light washed over me. I finally hit level 6. During the grind, I picked up 3 more pieces of gear: a toad belt, a toad helmet, and a toad ring. The ring gave me 20 HP and 8 attack, so I put it on immediately. I listed my old boar gear on a 10-minute auction. Both pieces sold for 30,000 coins each. As players leveled up, the value of level 6 gear was peaking. Somewhere in the village, a woman wearing a veil let out a sigh of relief as she won one of the auctions. She was talking to a man named Lu Shu. They were trying to figure out who I was. They knew it couldn't be a large guild because a guild would never sell gear this good. They'd use it to stay ahead. They suspected I was a solo player or a very small team. The woman remembered seeing a figure coming out of the boar forest earlier and made a mental note to find me. I had no idea I was being watched. I was too busy looking at my new stats. My HP was at 350, my defense was 18, and my speed was 35. My poison talent was now ticking for 23 true damage every single second. I had 5 stat points to spend, and I dumped them all into Constitution. That brought my HP to exactly 400. At that threshold, my natural health regeneration increased to 4 points per second. I checked my bag and had 15 health potions ready to go. It's time, I said to the empty forest. The Boar King had been on my mind for too long. I ran the math one last time. The boss had 250 attack. My defense was 20. It would hit me for 230 damage per strike. It could two-shot me if I wasn't careful. But I knew its patterns. I knew how to dodge Savage Charge. As long as I survived its berserk phase and kept the poison stacks up, I could win. I turned back toward the heart of the forest. It was time to claim my prize. I made up my mind. I turned and walked toward the territory of the Boar King. When the massive beast came back into view, my heart skipped a beat. Even with my improved stats, the sheer pressure radiating from that mountain of flesh was suffocating. I crept closer, step by step, until I crossed the line of its aggro range. The Boar King let out a deafening roar. It didn't hesitate. It triggered Savage Charge and tore toward me like a runaway freight train. Holy crap, I yelled, diving to the side. Something was different. When the regular boars used this skill, they scraped their front hooves on the ground first, giving a clear warning. This boss didn't slide or prep, it just roared and launched. If I hadn't spent hours fighting its subordinates, building up a reflex for that movement, I would have been crushed. As the king finished its charge and paused for a split second, I lunged. I swung my sword, slashing it right across the backside before spinning away to safety. Numbers popped up above its head. 23 damage. Every single second. I started doing the math. At this rate, it would take about 36 minutes to rot him down to 0. The real problem was the berserk phase. For 30 seconds, I wouldn't be able to get near him. With 50,000 HP, the boss had a natural regeneration of 500 health per second. If my poison fell off during that window, he'd heal back everything I'd worked for. I'll just have to tank a hit if I have to, I muttered, gripping my sword. I've got potions. For the next several minutes, it was a dance of death. I stayed focused, kiting the beast around the clearing and dodging every charge. 3 minutes passed, then 5. The Boar King hadn't touched me once. Finally, it snapped. The beast let out a guttural scream and reared up on its hind legs, standing over 3 meters tall. It beat its chest with its front hooves and charged again. My God, I whispered, eyes wide. It was terrifying, but I noticed something. Its movement speed hadn't increased. I checked the timer. My poison had 28 seconds left. I decided to play it safe and let him rage. Since I knew the roar was the signal for the charge, dodging became a rhythm. My 35 points in speed were my saving grace. The fight stretched on. The king went berserk 6 times. During one of those phases, the poison was about to expire. I had no choice. I rushed in, took a massive hit that drained 355 of my 400 HP, and landed a single strike to refresh the toxin. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but I managed to scramble away before he could land a second blow. Half an hour later, the king's health dropped to 10%. He triggered a final defensive skill, standing frozen like a statue for 10 seconds. He tried to recover, but the poison was too deep. He didn't heal a single drop of blood. With one final tick of damage, the massive body crashed to the ground. A golden light swirled around me. Notifications flooded my vision. I had killed the Black Iron boss. I gained 100 reputation and 5,000 experience points. My talent triggered again. My poison stacks increased by 1. I leveled up instantly, gaining 20 HP, 10 mana, and 5 stat points. Then, a booming voice echoed through the entire game world. Server announcement. Congratulations to player Chin Fong for being the first to slay the Black Iron boss, the Boar King. Rewards: 200 reputation, 10 gold coins, and 10 free attribute points. The announcement repeated 3 times. For a moment, the entire world of the game seemed to go silent. Then, the community exploded. People were losing their minds. Some thought it was a glitch. Others couldn't believe a solo player could take down a boss while they were still struggling to kill crabs. In Village 8365, a player named Jun Lin looked at his teammates, his face grim. He knew someone in his village had been selling high-level gear, and now this. The gap between them and this Chin Fong was becoming a canyon. Even the veiled woman I'd seen earlier was stunned. Is he really that strong? She whispered to herself. I, however, was staring at the rewards in a daze. 10 gold coins. That was 100,000 copper. I hadn't even seen 10 silver at once before this. The 10 extra attribute points were the icing on the cake. It was like leveling up twice for free. Suddenly, my interface started blinking like crazy. Friend requests and private messages flooded in, hitting 999 plus in seconds. My head started to throb. I quickly slammed my settings to ignore all, and finally felt the sweet relief of silence. Now came the best part, the loot. I had never seen so many items drop at once. I scrambled forward, my hands moving in a blur as I scooped up every single coin and item. I didn't leave a single copper behind. The haul was incredible. I found 1 silver and 34 silver coins, 3 pieces of black iron grade gear, 4 pieces of white grade gear, a skill book, and a mysterious scroll. I checked the black iron items first. The Tusk Greatsword, 30 physical attack, and plus 10 strength. The Boar King armor, 100 HP, 10 defense, and plus 8 constitution. The Boar King leggings, 100 HP, 10 defense, and plus 6 spirit. These weren't just basic items. Each one had a random bonus attribute that made them leagues better than anything else I'd seen. I looked at the pile of gear and smiled. If I wanted to get rich and stay powerful, hunting bosses was definitely the way to go. As for the 4 pieces of white grade gear, they were standard wild boar items, a leather helmet, armor, leggings, and a belt. I didn't need them, but they were worth a fortune. I set them aside and pulled out the skill book and the mysterious scroll. I looked at the skill book first, Savage Charge. It allowed a player to dash forward with increased defense and impact. In this game, skills were everything. There were no hidden classes, so the more skills you had, the stronger you were. Equipment was replaceable, but skills were permanent. This book was worth more than any armor. I decided to hold on to it. Once everyone hit their class transitions, the price would skyrocket. I'd make a killing. Then, I checked the scroll. It was a Boar King summoning scroll. It allowed me to summon the Boar King to fight for me for 30 minutes. My eyes lit up. That beast was a powerhouse. If I ran into a boss I couldn't handle, I'd just let the Boar King do the dirty work. Next, I had to deal with my attributes. Between leveling up and the achievement rewards, I had 15 points to spend. Right now, the only monster in the beginner village that worried me was the Silver Wolf. Its speed buff was deadly. To counter it, I needed to be faster. I dumped all 15 points into agility. Including my boots, my agility hit 50. I smirked. I was officially faster than the wolf. I equipped the Boar King armor and leggings. My stats surged. I felt a raw power I hadn't felt before. As for the Tusk Greatsword, I decided not to use it. The physical attack boost was useless for me since I couldn't break a monster's defense anyway. My damage came from poison. I'd be better off auctioning it for cash tomorrow when players reached the level requirement. I put my old leather gear and the 4 new white items up for auction with a 10-minute timer. The village went into a frenzy. Everyone was convinced that Chen Feng, the man who killed the Boar King, was right here in village 8365. 10 minutes later, the items were gone. I cleared 132,600 copper after fees. Making money was easy when you were at the top. My stats were looking insane now. At level 7, I had 620 HP and 50 movement speed. But the Real Kicker was my talent, source of toxicity. It now dealt 23 points of true damage per second, stacking twice. That was 46 damage every second, ignoring all defense. Most monsters in this village weren't even a threat anymore. I needed to hit level 10 and get to the main city. I headed back to the village to clear some space. Every player had a personal warehouse with 100 slots. I stored the skill book and the greatsword there for safekeeping. Then, I turned in my quests. Delivering the boar tusks and the toad venom earned me 1,300 experience and 500 copper. Questing was definitely faster than grinding, but you could only do them once. I stopped by the pharmacy and winced as I spent 10 silver on 20 red potions. The prices were daylight robbery. As I turned to leave and hunt some silver wolves, a woman in a white veil walked toward me. She had an incredible aura, though I couldn't see her face. She stopped right in front of me. "Chen Feng," she asked. I froze. How did she know? Was she guessing, or did I miss something? I kept my face deadpan. "Beauty, you've got the wrong guy," I said coolly. She stared at me, searching my eyes for a slip-up. I didn't blink. She eventually sighed. "I'm sorry. I must have been mistaken." "No worries," I said, walking past her. "Wait," she called out. "Can I add you as a friend?" Part of me wanted to say yes. She was clearly a top-tier beauty. But if I added her, she'd see my ID immediately. Women would only slow down my blade. I waved my hand over my shoulder without looking back. Maybe if we cross paths again. I checked my settings. A friend request had popped up, but my ignore all filter blocked it. It was the same result she would have gotten if she searched for Chen Feng. I hurried out of the village, wondering how she'd linked me to the boss kill. I'd been so careful. Behind me, another player spawned in next to the veiled woman. "Miss," the man said. "The chairman has agreed. We're going all in on this game. He's sending in the elite teams. He said not to worry about the cost. We need to stay ahead. And keep an eye on the auction house. Especially anything posted by Chen Feng. We need his gear, no matter the price." Chen Feng is definitely the one who got the first kill on the Wild Boar King. The woman, Su Mushua, said firmly. Her companion, Lu Shu, looked puzzled. "Miss, are you saying he's also the one who's been selling all that high-tier gear in our starting village?" "It has to be him," Su Mushua replied. "No one in the other villages is selling advanced equipment yet. If someone is strong enough to take down a boss, it's him. And I think I might know who he is." Lu Shu's eyes lit up. "If we can recruit a master like that to our side, the boost to our development would be massive. Can you bring him in?" "I'll try," Su Mushua whispered, though her voice lacked confidence. She knew how cold I had been back there. I, meanwhile, had arrived at Silver Wolf Valley. To most players, the level 10 Silver Wolves were an impossible wall. To me, they were just targets. I pulled one and slashed it twice. My passive talent had improved, allowing me to stack 2 layers of toxin. That meant 46 points of true damage every second. The wolf had 6,000 health. It took just over 2 minutes to drop. It bit me twice for 200 damage, but with my out-of-combat regeneration, that health came back in seconds. I entered a trance-like state of efficient killing. 2 hours of grinding pushed me to level 8. My health reached 640 and my mana hit 130. I held on to my attribute points for now, waiting to see what the next challenge required. The loot was underwhelming compared to the boss. Every wolf dropped 5 copper and a wolf fong, but after 50 kills, I only found one piece of equipment, a silver wolf bracelet. It was a basic white tier item with 10 attack and a tiny speed boost. I looked at my black iron gear and scoffed. I was getting picky. I tossed the bracelet onto the auction house with a bidding start and let the players fight over it. Deep in the wild boar forest, a player named Junling and his team finally took down a boar. They picked up the loot, only to see it was the same basic gear filling the auction house. I don't get it, Howran complained. How did that guy farm these when we were still struggling with goats? Even at level 5 with full gear, these boars are a pain. Who knows, Ninfeng said. But we're catching up. Junling checked the auction house and went quiet. Are we? Look at this. The others looked. A silver wolf bracelet? From the level 10 valley. Howran gasped. If he killed the boar king, Ninfeng muttered. Killing level 10 wolves is probably a joke to him. He's a freak. The bracelet eventually sold for 20,000 yuan. I couldn't believe it. People had too much money. I farmed for another hour until my head started to throb. I wanted to keep going. This was my job now, but my body was screaming for rest. I put another wolf bracelet and a piece of wolf armor on the auction house. Since I had the boar king's armor, I didn't need the defensive stats. I set them to anonymous bidding and logged off. I pulled off the gaming helmet and rubbed my temples. My head felt heavy. I needed a gaming pod. They kept your body nourished with nutrients and allowed for longer sessions, but they cost 1,000,000 yuan, strictly for the rich. I checked my phone. My bank balance was 307,300 yuan. My heart skipped a beat. In just one day, I had made what used to take me 10 years of soul-crushing work to earn. The exhaustion vanished, replaced by a rush of adrenaline. I tried to sleep but couldn't, so I scrolled through the game forums. The top post was about me. How was the wild boar king defeated? The experts analyzed the boss's stats and concluded it was impossible to kill at this stage. They didn't accuse me of cheating, the game was too advanced for that, but they begged Chinfeng to share a strategy. I laughed and closed the app. I wasn't giving away my secrets for free. I eventually crashed and slept for 6 hours. When the alarm went off, the room was still dark. I was tired, but I couldn't stay in bed. The average player level was likely 4 or 5 by now. If I slack off, my lead disappears. I logged back in. Your auction item has sold for 30,000 yuan. After fees, 25,500 yuan has been deposited. Nothing beats waking up to money. I decided it was time to sell the heavy hitter, the high-tier weapon I'd been holding. I started the long trek back to the village. The lack of teleport scrolls was a massive pain. As I passed the wild boar forest, it was crawling with players. Most were struggling. If you don't have the agility to dodge a boar's charge, you're dead. They would be better off fighting spiders, but everyone wanted the prestige of boar gear. I didn't stop to help. I had a market to corner. At this stage, plenty of players had managed to scrap together basic wild boar gear. I was still wearing the wild boar king set myself, but since it looked almost identical to the common drops, I didn't bother taking it off. I didn't want the attention, but I didn't want to waste time changing either. I hurried back to the novice village and pulled the heavy hitter from my storage. I listed the weapon on the auction house immediately, setting it to a 10-minute bidding war. Once I hit confirm, I turned around and headed straight back towards Silver Wolf Valley. I had work to do. The listing of the very first black iron grade weapon caused an absolute meltdown. The regional chat channel exploded. Holy crap, a black iron weapon with 30 attack? And it adds 10 strength? That's basically 50 attack points total, one player screamed. This one sword has more attack power than my entire gear set combined. Black iron is insane, another added. This has to be the drop from the wild boar king. So the god who killed it is definitely in our village. Why would he sell something this powerful? Does he already have something better? No way. How could there be anything better than black iron right now? Who cares? Just bid. If I get my hands on that, I'll be unstoppable. Huang Xiao was fuming. Lately, every piece of gear he wanted had been snatched away from him. He was desperate. Seeing this weapon was like a shot of pure adrenaline. With this, everyone else would be trash beneath his feet. In another part of the woods, a group of pro players was also watching the timer. Why wait this long to sell it? Lindsay asked, puzzled. Did he really find something better? Unlikely, Jun Lin analyzed calmly. Ordinary mobs in the novice village don't drop black iron gear. Unless he killed another boss, which is doubtful. He waited because players are finally high enough level to actually equip it. Selling it now maximizes the price because everyone is desperate to increase their farming efficiency. As for whether he has a better weapon, who knows? Maybe the king dropped more than one. None of them could have imagined that their god was currently deep in the valley, still using a basic novice wooden sword to whittle down mobs. I wasn't even breaking their defense. I was just letting my poison do the heavy lifting. Are we bidding? Xiaobei asked. We have to try, Junlin sighed. But the price is going to be astronomical. We're pros, and we've made good money over the years, but we can't compete with the true whales. We'll do our best, but don't get your hopes up. Meanwhile, Uncle Lu approached Su Muxua. He wanted to urge her to win the auction at any cost, but he knew how rational she was. She didn't like impulsive spending. The weapon, miss, he started tentatively. Get it, Su Muxua said firmly. Uncle Lu's eyes lit up. Understood. I won't let you down. The price for the Tusk Greatsword began to skyrocket. As the first black iron weapon on the market, its value was undeniable. Doubling your attack power in the early game was a massive advantage. It bypassed the 60,000 yuan mark in seconds. Then 80,000. The casual bidders started dropping out. Not everyone could treat money like water. The timer ticked down to the final seconds, 9 minutes and 59 seconds. This was the moment. The price sat at 85,000. Then, in the final breath of the auction, a flood of hidden bids crashed in. The final sale price, 120,000 yuan. Are you kidding me? Huang Xiao screamed, slamming his fist into a tree. I put in 110,000. I thought 100K would be the limit, so I added an extra 10,000 just to be safe. I still lost. He felt like the world was against him. It was like someone knew exactly what he was thinking and bid just a tiny bit higher every single time. I swear, if I find out who's doing this, I'll camp them until they drop everything they own. Back with the pros, Lin Zi let out a long breath. You were right, Junlin. These whales are insane. 120,000 for early game gear? I can't imagine what high-level stuff will cost later. Chun Feng is smart, Junlin said. He knows how to time the market. And we happen to be in a village with a few major whales. Once we reach the main city and the market stabilizes, prices won't be this ridiculous. Being in the same village as him is both a blessing and a curse, Hao Ran sighed. The others nodded. In any other village, they would be the kings. Here, they were just background characters. On the other side of the map, Uncle Lu handed the Tusk Greatsword to Su Muxua. With this, our leveling speed will double. We need to hit level 10 and get to the main city first. Su Muxua looked at the blade, then at the notification. 120,000. This Chin Feng has made hundreds of thousands of yuan in just 2 days. He's ahead of the curve, Uncle Lu replied. In this game, the person in first place takes everything. We have to keep up. Deep in the Silver Wolf Valley, a notification pinged in my ear. Your auction item has been sold for 120,000 yuan. After fees, 102,000 yuan has been deposited into your account. I paused my grinding. Even though I expected a high price, the number made me feel a bit numb. Over 100,000 for one sword. If a black iron weapon could fetch this much, that skill book I was holding on to would probably pay for my high-end gaming pod, and then some. I checked my progress. I was level 8, with 2,340 out of 8,000 experience. Each Silver Wolf gave 72 XP. Between kiting and killing, it took me about 3 minutes per wolf. For more hours to level up, I muttered. Too slow. In reality, I wasn't killing faster than the top parties. They could stand their ground and swing every second, while I had to dodge and wait for poison. But my advantage was that I could solo high-level mobs they couldn't even touch. They had to split their XP with a full team and burn through potions just to stay alive. I was a lone wolf, and I intended to stay that way. My leveling speed couldn't touch Wu Xiaoqian's, but I was still moving incredibly fast. Even so, I needed a new strategy. My health regeneration had reached 6 points per second, which meant I could recover 300 HP in less than a minute. I realized I could probably tank a single hit from 3 different wolves at once. If I could pull a whole pack and farm them together, my efficiency would skyrocket. I decided to test it. I pulled 3 silver wolves and swung my blade at the first one. But before I could even pivot to the second, all 3 wolves lunged simultaneously. Their teeth sank into me at the exact same moment. My heart skipped a beat as my health bar plummeted. I turned and bolted. I'd completely miscalculated. I forgot that they didn't take turns. They attacked as a pack. If I tried to hit each one once, I'd have to endure 9 attacks in a single rotation. That was a death sentence. I slapped my forehead, cursing my own stupidity. I had to go back to the old way, unless I could find a way to separate them. Right then, one of the wolves activated a haste skill. It surged forward, leaving its companions in the dust as it chased me down. My eyes lit up. That was exactly what I needed. By baiting their skills, I could pick them off one by one without getting swarmed. I spent the next 2 hours grinding before logging off to grab a quick breakfast. Once I was back in the pod, I pushed through another 3.5 hours of relentless combat. Finally, a golden light washed over me. I hit level 9. My stats were looking solid. My HP reached 660 and my mana hit 140. I sat on my attribute points for now, keeping them in reserve. In that session, I'd slaughtered 79 silver wolves and managed to snag 2 pieces of gear. The first was a silver wolf helmet, which gave me 60 HP and 10 defense. I swapped out my old toad helmet immediately, bumping my total health to 680. The second was a silver wolf ring that added 12 attack and 1% armor penetration. I put the ring and my old helmet up for auction. Since I wasn't sure of the market value, I set them to a bidding mode. The ring sold for 15,000 yuan, but the helmet only fetched 5,000. It made sense. Other players were finally reaching the level where they could farm the early gear themselves. Without a monopoly, prices were crashing. Back when I sold the wild boar gear, I was getting 30,000 apiece. Now, even high-level wolf gear was worth half that. I didn't let it bother me, though. It was just second-hand junk to me now. Getting anything for it was better than the few copper coins a shop NPC would offer. I only needed one more level to reach the village chief and head to the main city. In games like this, the first person to complete their class transfer usually got a massive reward. But the math was daunting. At level 9, a silver wolf only gave 66 XP. I needed 10,000 XP to level up, which meant killing 152 more wolves. At 2 minutes per kill, I was looking at 5 grueling hours. I gripped my wooden sword and headed deeper into the valley. Suddenly, a thunderous howl echoed through the trees, vibrating in my chest. The silver wolves in the area immediately changed. They stopped wandering aimlessly and snapped into a disciplined formation, guarding the path ahead. A boss, I whispered. I moved fast, using my 50-point movement speed to weave through the trees. Most wolves couldn't even keep up with me. After 5 minutes of sprinting, I reached the heart of the valley. There stood a massive wolf, its fur shimmering like polished silver. It held its head high with an unmistakable regal aura. I cast Insight. It was the Silver Wolf King, a bronze-grade boss. Level 10, with a staggering 200,000 HP and 550 attack. Its stats were terrifying. It had a haste skill that boosted its speed and attack by 50%, and a roar that dealt defense-ignoring sonic damage while debuffing my output. Worst of all, at 30% health, it would call every wolf in the valley to its side. I felt a bead of sweat roll down my neck. 200,000 HP? Even if I stood there hacking at it unopposed, it would take me 2 hours to kill. One wrong move with that sonic roar, and I'd be deleted instantly. And if it summoned the pack, I'd be buried in fur and teeth. This was supposed to be a starter village boss, but the difficulty felt insane. I backed away slowly. I couldn't take it yet. Reaching level 10 and getting my class transfer was the priority. I went back to the grind, losing myself in the rhythm of the hunt. While I was tucked away in my corner of the world, the rest of the game was in chaos. In every other starter village, major guilds were throwing everything they had at the Wild Boar King. They had seen the stats of the tusked great sword I'd sold, and the greed was driving them mad. But reality was a cruel teacher. One team after another was wiped out. Some tried to use a human wave tactic, throwing bodies at the boss to chip it down. They'd get it to 10% health, but because they couldn't finish it within 5 minutes, the Boar King's health regeneration would kick in, healing it back to 30%. They simply didn't have the raw damage to overcome its 120% defense bonus. The game forums exploded. Everyone was tagging Chen Feng, demanding to know how I had soloed a boss that entire guilds couldn't kill. I didn't see any of it. I was too focused on the wolves. Back in the village, a player named Lindsay laughed while scrolling through the threads. The forums are going nuclear, he told his friend, Howran. I want to know how he did it too, Howran admitted. Their leader, Jun Lin, nodded thoughtfully. His talent must counter the health regen. Otherwise, there's no way a single player could output 15,000 damage in 5 minutes against that kind of defense. Elsewhere, Uncle Lu looked at Su Mushua. Miss, you mentioned you might know who this Chinfeng is. Can you ask him for his secret? Su Mushua, usually cold and composed, looked visibly embarrassed. I can't. He hasn't accepted my friend request. I had no idea people were talking about me. I just kept swinging. It took 6 long hours and 152 dead wolves. But finally, the notification I'd been waiting for flashed across my vision. I had reached level 10. I looked through my loot from the long grind. I had 4 pieces of silver wolf gear. First was the silver wolf belt, a basic white-grade item that added 50 health and 5 defense. Then there was the silver wolf bracelet, which gave me 20 health, 12 attack, and a 1% boost to attack speed. That one was top tier. I also had the silver wolf boots, adding 6 speed and 4 defense, and finally the silver wolf leggings, which gave 60 health and 4 defense. I couldn't use the leggings yet, but the other 3 pieces were perfect. I swapped them out immediately. My stats shifted as I crossed into level 10. My health jumped from 680 to 730, and my mana rose to 150. My physical attack climbed to 32, while my defense hit 42. I felt faster, too, with my movement speed reaching 52. My experience bar reset, showing 0 out of 2,000 for the next level. Everything else stayed the same. I opened the auction house to see how the market was doing. A lot of people were listing basic gear. Prices ranged from 5,000 to 20,000, but nothing was moving. The wealthy players and big guilds didn't care about low-level white gear anymore, and the solo players couldn't afford those prices. I had to be realistic. I took my old belt and boots and listed them for 2,000 each. It wasn't much, but even a small amount of meat is still meat. I listed the new silver wolf leggings for 10,000. Since nobody else was hunting silver wolves yet, I knew a rich player would eventually bite. I was right, and all 3 items sold almost instantly. I cleared 12,600 after the fees. It was a sharp drop from my earlier earnings, but white gear just wasn't a game changer anymore. I was finally level 10. It was time to head back to the village, talk to the old village chief, and get transported to the main city for my class advancement. Before that, I had a task to finish. I checked my bag and saw over 200 wolf teeth. Materials of the same type could stack up to 1,000, so they didn't take up much space. These were going to be worth a nice chunk of experience and cash. I hurried back to the novice village and found the general store owner. He was the one who had posted the quest for the teeth. I handed over 100 of them and received 2,000 experience points and 10 silver coins. It was a generous reward. I sold the rest of the miscellaneous materials to him for another 100 copper coins. Finally, I made my way to the village entrance to find the chief. I tried to be as polite as possible. I told him I had reached level 10 and asked if he could send me to the main city. The old man looked at me with genuine shock. He told me my growth was astonishing. Then his expression turned sour. He apologized and said the teleportation formation to the mainland had been broken for too long. He needed a special item to fix it, the demon box. And of course, that box was held by the Silver Wolf King deep inside the valley. A notification pinged in my ear. The chief was offering me a quest to slay the Silver Wolf King and recover the box. The reward was a title, Hero of the Novice Village. I stared at him in disbelief. I thought I was done with that place. I thought if I couldn't beat the boss, I could at least outrun the problem by leaving. Now, the game was forcing my hand. I had no choice but to face the beast.